Guys, today and in our few upcoming sessions, we are going to discuss Git repository, all about Git. So basically, we are going to start from what is source code management system, why we need, what is GitHub, what is Git repository, what exactly they are going to do, and why we are using, right, why we need to use such concept in our application. Everything we are going to discuss today and in our few upcoming sessions. So what we are going to discuss today? First of all, I will give you a brief overview about the source code management. So, what is source code management? Why we need source code management in software development? What is version control? What is the difference between file backup and version control? What is Git? Why industry using Git? What is exactly Git repository? How multiple developers working on the same project? Right? That's what we are going to discuss in chapter one. In chapter two, what we are going to discuss? We are going to discuss how we can make our system ready. So what software to be installed on our own machine to work with Git, how we are going to integrate, right? Visual Studio to use Git. So then how we are going to integrate Git with GitHub? Each both are same, each both are different. We are installing Git on our local machine. Do I need to install GitHub or right or what is the approach, right? That's what we are going to discuss in chapter two. In chapter 2, we are going to discuss, right, basically what is Git repository. We are also going to discuss how to create a ASP.NET Core Web API project. After creating the project, we are going to discuss how we can right, integrate Git with our project. We will also discuss what is local repository, what is remote repository, what is the difference between them. Right? Once we integrate Git to our project, what are the different files and folders being created? What exactly they are going to contain? That's what we are going to discuss in chapter 3. In chapter 4, what we are going to discuss the core concept of a Git. So basically, what are the different working area like that working directory, what is staging area, what is repository, why the staging area is available right between our working directory and the repository, what are the different Git states related to a file. So when we are adding a file, what is its state? What is the difference between a on-track, modified, changed, and committed files? How we can move our right files to state, how we can move our files from state to the commit state, what are the different commands they have provided, do I need to use commands in Visual Studio, if we are not using the command then how the things are happening behind the scene, all these things we are going to discuss. So these four chapters we are targeting it right for today's session. And then in chapter 5, we are going to discuss branching, how to create right different branch, what is main branch, right from main branch, how we can create a sub branch. Right, we are also going to discuss what is the best practices of using commit. What should you do with commit? What you should not do with commit? Why small commit is better than large commit? Then we are also going to discuss right the managing, right merging and resolving. For example, some code is written by someone else, and I have written some code, and we both developer are working on the same class file, same function. So how we can manage the merging functionality and how we can overcome the conflicts right in our project, that what we are going to discuss. Then we are also going to work with a remote repository, right? For example, in a multi-team development environment, particularly in your organization where multiple members are going to work on the same project, then how we can manage the source code, right? Or you can say how you are going to collaborate with different team members. So for that purpose, we need to work with remote repositories. So remote repository means what? We need to create account in the GitHub or where we are going to push our code. Then also we are also going to discuss what is clone, what is push, what is pull, right? How we can do all these things right practically in our application. So pull request we will also discuss in detail what is all about pull request. For example, report and reset. So already we have do some check-in how we can revert back to the previous versions, right? That's what we are also going to discuss. And finally, we'll discuss, right, how we can verify the history, right? What are the different changes made to a class file? What changes happening in each class file, right? That complete history, if you want to see, that what also you can see using GitHub. So these are the things that what we are going to discuss. And after this, we are going to discuss CI/CD pipeline. Clear? Clear,
Yes.
guys?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay. So let us start proceeding and understand, right, the first chapter, that is source code management, right, what is all about. See, in software development, writing code is only one part of the job, right? So as a developer, You are writing the code, that is fine, and that is what your primary job. The bigger challenge is managing code changes over the time. So basically, whenever multiple developers are working on the same project, as the application grows, right? You need to add a new features, you need to do some performance enhancement, you need to fix some bugs, right? So continuously you are going to work on the code. So as you are working on the code, right, again and again over the period of time, again multiple developers are going to work on the same application or same project. So managing these changes, right, extremely difficult and risky. And this is where source code management system, that is SCM, right, comes into the picture. So SCM provides a structured way to store, right, track, manage, and control source code changes. So what is SCM? Let us try to observe. So source code management system basically a systematic approach to manage, track, and control changes made to the source code throughout the software development life cycle. So first of all, we are developing one project. Second thing, multiple developers are going to work on the same project. Third thing, maybe multiple developer working on the same class, maybe on the same function. So again, right, some developer working on the performance improvement, some developers working on the new feature, some developer might be working on some bug fixes, right? So different developer working on the same project, and their role and responsibility is going to be different. So how we can handle all these things, right, in a proper manner? So for this purpose, what we need to do, we need to use something called a source code management system. So with source code management system, it will give you a proper management tool. Proper management tool means what? Now it is going to check, right, who change what, change when, change why, change. So if you are doing some changes, why you are doing that changes? When these changes has been made, right? And who made these changes? Everything it is going to track. Right? So that later point of time, if something happening and you want to figure out who made these changes, you can easily figure out from this RAID source code management system. Later point of time, for example, you have developed multiple version, right? You created one version v1, v2, v3 like this, and v3 you right, uploaded to what I can say production. And once you upload it into the production, that application class. So what you need to do, you need to revert back from v2 to v1. I mean, reverting back to the previous version. Sir, how I can do this thing? You can do this thing using source code management system, because you have to go to the previous version and you need to get that code, and then you can publish your right old code to the application. So basically, not only it is managing the code changes, but also it is tracking, right, who made these changes, when made, right, these changes is being made, right, everything, right. You can make a backup, you can restore the backup, right. Even if you want to verify, right, for this particular file, how many different versions are there, right, who what changes are happening, right. For example, if you want to check, right, this is my current class code, and what was there in the previous version, so can I compare this thing? Yes, you can compare this. So everything you are going to manage, right, using this source code management. So basically it is help to you, right, to make you change tracking. So who made the changes, when these changes are being made, you can track, you can create multiple versions of v1, v2, v3, right, different version you can create. So again, right, because of the source code management system, multiple developers, they are going to work on the same application. Backup and recovery is 100% going to be there. If something, right, on is right, if something happening, right, which is crashing your application, you can right, make a backup. Of, I mean, the previous version of the code you can take and publish. History and rollback. So definitely, if you made some changes and you want to roll back that changes, yes, absolutely fine. That is also possible. So and traceability 100%, who, what, when, and why, and all these things are going to be tracked by the source code management system. Clear? Clear, guys?
Yep. Yep.
Okay. So next, what we need to understand, we need to understand this source code management system is fine, but what is version control? Say, version control is the core concept behind the source code management system. So version control is actually the concept that is behind, right, behind source code management system. So what is this concept? Now it refers to the process of tracking, managing, and maintaining multiple version of the source code files over the period of time. See, we are saying we can revert to a previous version, we can compare two version, right? How it is possible? It is possible because it is maintaining a multiple version of the code file. So if you are right pushing one changes, again another changes, V1, V2, V3 like this, for each version, it is going to maintain the source code so that you can, if you want, you can take previous source code. If you want to compare it to version of the code, that is also fine. How it is possible? Because of the version control. So this version control track every changes that we are making to we made to our files, and also it is maintaining multi. See, if you are working with your working directory, 100% that working directory is going to have a if you are creating one red product controller means one code file is going to be there. How that code file is evolved over the period of time, what was there from day one, what is there in day two, what is there, what changes you have made in day three, right? Everything if you want to track, that is possible right, by using something called version control. So what changes are being made, right? Managing different versions, comparing one file, right? Comparing one files means what? Comparing that current file with the previous file. If you want to restore the previous version, that is also possible, right? All these things are possible because of the version control. Clear? So source code management system we are using, but behind the scene, this version control is going to be there. Who is managing all this thing, right? For our application. Clear, guys?
Yep.
Okay. Now, so what is the difference between a file backup and a version control? See, sometimes for people, what they are doing, they are just taking a backup, right, of the code, right? For example, right, earlier, right, when before version control and even some very right small companies, what they are doing, now they created one application, they do some enhancement, some processing, right? After 1 week or after 5 days, what they done? Just make a copy of that file and put it somewhere else. Again, they start working again after again 5 or 7 days they again take a backup and store that somewhere else and then start working. So what is that file backup? What is the difference between file backup and version control? See, file backup is mainly used for a recovery purpose. So if something, if your code is being lost, right, or if there is some unusual activity happened, right, once you publish your code, you can take that backup file and you can restore and I mean publish and you can deploy that code. So file backup is only mainly for a recovery purpose. But does the file backup going to tell you who created this file, when this file is being created, what changes are being made to the file? So if you want to track all this information, then file backup is not the solution. Then what is the solution? The solution is version control. So version control is going to track, right? You can say file backup or backup store only copies of file. So whatever file you created, that's it. But version control track changes and versions. So what changes happening to each version, right? So file backup is mainly used for recovery, and where this version control is for change history and right, collaboration. So multiple team member can work on the same source code, right? Every team member, right, they can do some changes, right? Everything is possible. So backup don't store contextual data. I mean, who made these changes, when these changes being made, why they have made those changes, right? This information you will not find with file backup, but these are available. Why you are asking this TFS and Git this question at this point of time? I don't know. I have not yet covered it. I have not yet discussed what is TFS, what is Git. Once I start, I will explain. So next is going to be manual and schedule. So manual backup, you need to take the backup manually. Then right, backup are a individual focus. So you take one backup, you can store that on your machine. That's it. So your backup is not going to be available to other. If they want, you have to send that file by using some file transfer mechanism. So backup means it save copies for recovery, while version control means manage the full history of changes and enable right safe collaborations. Now, this file rate, what we understand till now, what is version control we discuss, and what is source code management system we discuss. And we also discuss behind the source code management, it is the version control who is managing everything. So once you understand this version control, next what we need to understand, what are the different version control systems are available. Right, I don't know, right, guys, remember, Okay, let me stop that chat window because I generally ask people not to send chat. If anyone having any question, they can just simply unmute and ask me. Clear? Anyone having any question because one message is coming and my mind is diverted. So anyone having any question, please unmute and ask me directly. I generally not prefer that chatting concept at all. Yes, if you are having some background noise, in that case you can put the message. But once I open the chat window, clear till now, guys. Clear what is the SCM and what is version control? Is that clear?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And coming to your point, if you are using version control, file backup is not required because everything is going to be there. Not only it is storing multiple version of the application, but also it is tracking who made the changes, when made the changes, and why they have made the changes. You can compare a different file. That is the benefit that what you are getting right with version control. That is not available in file. File backup is only used for the recovery purpose now. So what are the different version controls? So TFS is one of the there. Git is also one of the there, right? One of the version control system. So anyone you can use. It doesn't matter whether you are using TFS or whether you are using Git. Older framework, right? When I worked before 10 years, right? At that time we are using TFS. But nowadays, TFS is you can consider outdated. What is being used mostly nowadays is Git. Why Git? Because it is open source, it is free. You do not need to pay anything. Completely free of cost. So let us try to understand what is Git. So Git means what, guys? Remember, it is a version control system. It is a actually distributed version control system used to implement source code management in real-time software application development. So basically what we need a source code management system. But we also discussed behind the source code management system, it is the version control who is managing everything. Then what are the differences? Then what software I need to use for implementing the source code management? Now, one of the software is Git. Another one is a TFS. If you want TFS, that is fine. But now, most of the companies, they are using Git. So Git and TFS both are doing the same thing, that is managing the version control. So again, this Git means what? So Git is a distributed version control. Distributed version control means what? Now that the system is going to be distributed means what? You can store the history on your local machine, as well as you can also store that information in the shared repository, so that other people can also get those information or can get those changes or whatever enhancement you have doing. So now you can see. So this is going to be my remote repository. So I will show you. I will tell you there are two different kind of repositories. One is a local repository. Another one is a remote repository. What is local repository? We will discuss. So let assume we are working with a remote repository. So this is my remote repository. So developer one is working, developer two is also working. So in this case, developer one push some changes to this one. So push changes means what? After doing some work, right? I have made final. Okay, this is my final code. Okay, let me push these changes to my repository. So he will push these changes to the repository. And this developer, what exactly it is doing? It is pulling that changes, right? So I'm making some changes. Other developer can get the changes from the repository. So basically, this is the distributed or you can say shared repository, which is going to be shared between multiple developer. And as it is working over the internet, so we can also consider this is a distributed version control system. So push changes means pushing the changes to the repository. Pull changes means what getting that changes right or latest version right from the repository, not the latest version, whichever version you want, you can pull that changes right from the repository to your machine. So distributed version control system means what? Now each developer has a local repo on their one machine. Also, a remote repository where if they want to push those changes, they can push. So using this Git, we can also maintain a version history and branching. We can create a different branch. What is a branch? We'll discuss in detail right in our next session. So we can track changes. We can maintain different versions, right? Because of this remote repository, multiple team members, right? They can work on the same project, right? That benefit what you are going to get if you use it in your project. So basically, if someone asks you what is Git, so you need to tell Git is a distributed version control system which is used to implement source code management in real-time software development. Sir, what is source code management system? To manage the source code over the period of time. Sir, what do you mean by manage the source code over the period of time? Means we need to keep track of every changes made to each file. So every changes made to each file means what? Now who made the changes, when that changes is being made, why they have made the changes, right? What are the different version of that file? So everything we need to keep track, and for that purpose, we need to use source code management system. And to implement source code management system, we need a software, and that software in this case is going to be Git. So basically, Git is technically purely a software that what we need to install to manage the source code in our application in real time. Clear?
So one question here, like
Yes.
as you stated, like push changes will be developer is pushing the change and another can pull it. So same thing we can do in the TFS also. So other than that, it's a open source. Like is like in the working also there's a difference between TFS or
No,
both
no.
works on the distro.
Right, in TFS you have to use check in, check out, right? And
Yeah.
here something different. I mean, see, technical and functionally, if you ask me what is the difference between Java and C Sharp, see, both are two programming languages only. But
Yeah.
syntactically, functionally, they are going to, right? Syntactically, they might be different. Functionally, they are going to do the same thing. So, yes, Java might be have
Okay.
some different features, C Sharp might be have some different feature, but from the high level point of view, both are only version control management system,
Thank you.
right? So whatever you want to use, you can use. Yes, but what is the benefit? Git is completely open source and free. And nowadays, right, most of the developer, right, they are looking for such kind of functionality which is open source and free. Clear?
Thank you.
Anyone else having any more question? Clear, guys?
Yes.
Yep.
So we have discussed, right, Git. Then what is Git repository? See, Git is the software that what you need to install. Then what is Git repository? Git repository is the structured storage system where Git manages a project source code along with its complete change history. See, right, if you want to understand this, right, Git repository in a better manner, if I ask you the question, right, what is database and what is SQL?
Database is the place where the tables and records are getting saved, and SQL is the way we can retrieve the programming language to retrieve the data or store
Exactly.
the
So
data.
exactly. So database is means is used to store the data permanently. And this TSQL or PLSQL, whatever we are using to manage the data in the database, right? Yes or no?
Yes.
Yes or no? If you ask me, right? If you ask me, what is SQL server? It is the RTBMS. Clear? Yes or no? What
Yes,
is
sir.
what is TSQL? Now this is the right query, right? I mean, this is right provided the syntax, right, using which we can communicate with the database. And what is SSMS? This is the
Software editor.
editor, right, using which we can write the command. And whatever command we are going to write, for that purpose we need TSQL, and this is going to be my database. So actual data where it is going to store?
Database.
Database. Similarly, whenever we are working with the Git, means what? So this Git means what? It is the software, right, which I need to install, and it also provides some commands. So it provides some commands, and using this command, I can push some changes. I can right pull some changes. Right, anything right I can do. That means it is going to provide a set of commands which we are going to use. And what is Git repository? Now this is the storage location, right? This is the storage location. Better to use structured storage location. Sir, what do you mean by structured storage location? Now, it is going to store the data. See, in database, we are going to store the data in table format, right? And here also, it is going to store the data in a particular format, which is very easy to understand. And Easy to understand means what? We can easily figure out what different versions of the file is being exist, what changes being made to each file. That complete history it is going to store. Where it is going to store in the repository. Repository means what? This is the storage location where all our source code files are going to be stored. Each version of the files are going to be stored. And what is this Git? It is the software which we need to install. It provides some command, and using this command, I can do some operation on the Git repository. So I can push my code the repository. I can get the code from the repository. I can do the commit, right? I can do the rollback. Everything I'm going to do. So what is Git? Now it is going to provide the. It is the version control system, right? And Git repository means what? It is the actual storage location, right? So actual storage location where it is going to store the data. And this Git provide this version control system means it provides some set of commands. Using this command, I can do operation on Git repository. Clear?
Okay, can I ask one question here, sir? Like maybe I don't know whether it will be applicable or not. Like in our project where I'm working, it is storing the files into a repo in active Azure directory. So is it the Git repository itself or Git repository is different? Like just
Coming to that
asking.
point, right? I'm coming to that point, don't worry. So basically, see, see, what is this Git repository, right? I'm going to discuss in some time. So basically, right, what exactly happening? Now, Git is different and right, GitHub is different. So basically, whenever you are working, right, there are two type of repository. One is local repo and another one is remote repo. So I will discuss this thing, right, in this chapter, right, creating a repository. So what is local repo? What is right remote repo? What is this thing, right? I will discuss this thing practically. So
Okay,
now
sir.
what I can tell you is local repo means it is going to store everything on your local machine. Remote repo means it is going to store this information in the remote machine. So this remote repo means what? It can be your AWS repo. You can use Azure, right? You can use GitHub, right? Anything you can use. Clear? What you are using in your case?
Okay, sir. Azure, so it is the Git repository itself. So this Azure will come as a Git repository or like,
Both are different only. So
okay.
But
repository
we
is
have
different.
also have one GitLab. What is that? Like,
Yes,
what is
that is
that?
what I'm saying. Na? So you can have multiple, right, remote repositories. Wherever you want to store
And
the data, you can store.
One small doubt, sir. There is one Bitbucket also. Like I used to hear Bitbucket.
So that is what I'm saying. Na? So this remote repo means what? It can be anything where it is going to store the data. So whenever I'm using Git means it doesn't mean it is always going to store the data in the GitHub. I'll show you this thing practically, right? How you can decide, right, where you want to store the data. For example, right? Okay, let me simply go, right? Let me create a simple project. I'll show you this thing practically. So let me go ahead and create this simple ASP.NET Core Web API project. So let me give this project name as a student API. This project is created student app. Okay. So let me click on the next button. Let me click on the create button. Okay. So now, if you click on this, so I have installed Git software, which is also integrated with Visual Studio. So you can see this Git menu now. So when I come to here, right, you can see something called a commit and a source. Right here, you can say create a Git repository. So the second option you can say create Git repository is visible to everybody. I will show you how you need to install
Yes.
all these things.
yes,
I'm going
yes.
to show you. So in this case, when I click on right here, you can see it is showing Azure DevOps and GitHub. So both are different only. So if I'm using GitHub, that information I need to provide for Azure DevOps or the different account, right? For existing remote, right? If something else, right, that remote URL you need to provide. Local means it is only going to store in the local on your own machine. So you can have multiple repository. See, if I'm using Git, that doesn't mean It is always going to store the data right in the remote repository. You can only work with the local repository, that is absolutely fine. You can make use of the remote repository as a GitHub, that is fine. You can make use of Azure DevOps as the Git repository, that is also fine. If you want, you can also create a different repository, right? Whatever you are saying, right? That what you can also specify, right? Which is also going to work absolutely fine. Clear?
Yep.
Right? So
Yes.
I will explain this thing right in detail once I start the chapter 3. So basically, Git repository means it is going to store the data. Git means it is going to provide some command using which we can work with the repository. Again, repository can be a local repository, can be a remote repository. So can I work with both local repository and remote repository in the same project? 100%. So whether, see, using the remote repository is optional, but 100% local repository is going to be there. If you are using remote repository means what? Means already there is a local repository. If you want, you can only use Git. If you want, you can use Git plus GitHub. But it is not possible that I'm going to use GitHub without Git. That is not possible. Right? Clear, guys? What is Git repository? Is that clear?
Yes,
Now,
sir.
Now let us try to understand the difference. See, Git and Git repository are closely related concept in source code management system. But guys, remember, they are not the same. So Git represents the tool. Tool means it is the software that perform the version control operations. Means what? Now how to add, right? How to push, how to pull, how to roll back, right? How to report, right? All these operations are going to be performed by some tool, and that tool going to be provided by the Git. So Git is nothing but a software that what we need to install. Once we install, it will provide the commands. And the Git repository means it is the storage location where the operations are going to be applied. So whatever the data I'm going to store, right, that is going to be stored within the Git repository. And using this Git, I'm going to use some operation, and those operations are going to perform on the Git repository. See, version control system, right? Version control is the software, and it provides some command line, right? I mean, some command that what we need to use. And again, this Git tool we need to install on our developer machine. So wherever you are going to work in that machine, Git needs to be install. So it provides some command like commit, branch, merge, push, pull, etc., which we are going to use. And it defines the rule and operation for performing the version control. So what operations you are going to perform? That rules and regulations are going to be provided by Git. So what is Git repository? Now this is the location where the data is going to be stored. Data means the source code, right? Project source code is going to be stored. Again, it contains a completely history of commits. So if I'm having, if I'm doing multiple commit, so each commit information it is going to store. If I'm creating branches, all the branch information it is going to store. All the metadata like when this, right, who made these changes, when these changes is being made, right, at what date, every information it is going to maintain. So you have to remember this Git is nothing but the tool, means it is the software. It provides some command, and this is the storage location. Storage means you can consider this is the database. Again, this repository can be a remote repository, or can be a local repository. So we'll discuss more about the local repository and remote repository later point of time. For now, just remember there are two ways to create the repositories. Clear?
Yes, sir.
Right. So this is what all about, right? Git repository. So next, what we are going to discuss how to install, what to install, and what is the step-by-step process to install. So first of all, you need to understand, right? Whenever you are working with Git, Git means what? It is the software. So that software you need to install wherever you are going to work. I mean on your local machine. So wherever you install Visual Studio, right, whichever version you are using, obviously you are going to use the latest version. So in that Visual Studio, right, I mean definitely you need to install Visual Studio on your machine, and at the same time you also have to install the Git. So what is Git? We have already discussed. It is the free and open source distributed version control system managing the data. I mean, managing the version of our source code. So now let us proceed and understand, right, how we can install these things. So first of all, go to this website, right? git.scm.com. So git source code management.com. So once you come to this file, right, you can see, click on this install for Windows. So once you click on this install for Windows, it is taking you to the installer, right? Here you can see, based on your operating system, you can choose, right? I mean, Visual Studio is now available with Windows, Mac, and Linux. So whatever the operating system you are using, accordingly you need to choose the installer. For example, I'm using Windows, and I hope most of you guys are working with Windows operating system. So here you need to click on this, click here to download button, or click for this Windows 64-bit. Clear? So anyone you need to install. So once you click on this, right, that exe file is going to be downloaded. So once that exe file is being downloaded, here both options are going to be same. So you can click on this option or you can click on this option. Both are going to do the same thing. It is going to install the 64-bit, right, operating, I mean Windows 64-bit installer on your local machine. So once you double click, it will open this license window. So here what you need to do, just don't read this license and click on the next button. And it is very common as a software developer, whenever we are installing any software, we never read the license, and that approach you 100% right. You also need to follow right while installing this one. So who is going to waste time by reading this right long license? Simply click on the next button. So once you click on the next button, right, then what will happen? You need to follow a step-by-step approach. So installing Git means you have to follow a recommended approach. So recommended settings, that what you need to do. First of all, you need to specify where you want to install GitHub. I mean, on your local machine, on which directory, on which folder you want to install. And going with the default file location is absolutely fine. See program files and Git. I have already installed, right? So I'm showing this thing through the screenshot. Otherwise, I can show this thing, right? C program files Git. So if you go to the C drive, program files, so you can see, and here you should see Git. So you can see that the installation is already done. So that what you need to do here, see program files Git, and just click on the next button. So from this section, right, you have to choose, right, what additional component you want to select, and whatever the default component they have provided, that is more than sufficient. So whatever the Windows Explorer, for example, right, using Windows command prompt, you can write the code, right. So Git LFC large file support. So very large file they are also going to support, right? I mean, whatever the default option coming, right, the components, that what you need to install. Even I also don't know, right, what some of the components are, but it is absolutely fine, right, if you go with the default option and just click on the next button. So then, right, it is going to open the start menu folder. So basically, it is saying, right, do you want to create a start menu? If yes, what will be the name? So in that case, right, I'm providing the name as Git. This is also the default option. And here, please uncheck this one. So don't create a start menu folder. So basically, if you checked this one, then it is not going to create a start menu, right? And if you uncheck, then it is going to create a start menu. So go with this option. Then selecting the default editor. So basically what exactly it means, now whenever you are going to work with right, some TFS code, and if you want to open some file, then what is the default editor on which you want to open? Guys, remember, here I'm using Visual Studio Code as the default editor, but that doesn't mean you cannot work with Visual Studio. So this is just the default editor. And in this case, right, guys, remember, only the editor which are open source, they are going to be visible. So Visual Studio Code is open source. That's what I can see here. But Visual Studio is not open source. So I cannot see that one. But again, whatever the software I'm going to install here, if I add that folder path to my environment variable, then those command I can access from anywhere. Right. So that's what you need to remember. So here I'm providing the default option. It doesn't make any impact, right? And don't consider that if I'm setting here Visual Studio Code, means it is not going to work with my Visual Studio. 100% it will work. Next, right, adjusting the name for the initial branch, right? For example, by default, right, whenever you are going to add the project, right, that project is going to be created within a default branch. So what should be that default branch name, right? So that branch name I'm setting here main. Again, what is a branch? How to create a different branch, right? All these things we are going to discuss, right? Uh, in our next session. But for now, just remember the default branch is going to be main. So what is branch? All the information we are going to discuss. And this path environment is very, very important. So basically, what exactly it means? Now, right, select this option, Git from the command line and also from third-party software. So basically, what exactly it means? Now, in this, if you select this option, then what will happen? Now, it is going to add that Git, right, wherever our Git is installed, path it is going to automatically add into the environment variable so that the git command not only I'm going to use from the command line, right, from the command prompt, but I can also use from third-party software, including Visual Studio. So if you set this option, then now Visual Studio can automatically, right, going to use GitHub, right? You do not need to do anything special. That is going to be available. And why it is possible? Because in this case, it is going to add that path to the environment variable, right? For example, right, if you go to this one, environment variable, this one, so path, edit. See, you can say C command, C program file G8 and CMD command. So this is already added into the visual environment variable. So now I can use the command from anywhere. So you can use from the command from, you can use from the Visual Studio Code, right? Anywhere. So next, choose the SSH executable, right? So basically, this allows gives to use a SSH client package to the Git itself. So what exactly it means? Now, whenever it is going to install the Git, so whatever the requirement software are required, right? Automatically, it is going to install right from the internet, right? So choosing HTTPS protocol, so this is a security. So it is going to use OpenSSL library. So basically, this allows secure HTTPS communication between the GitHub and the other services. So, for example, we are going to work right from Git to GitHub, right from our application to some different services. I mean, for remote connection. So, in that case, it is going to use OpenSSL. So, it is going to secure the communication between GitHub and the other servers. Then configuring the line ending. So basically, right, for example, you develop the application and you are using Windows, your friend, they are going to use Linux and Mac operating system. So for providing a proper line encoding, right, ending style, right? So basically what exactly it means? It means now if you select this option, then it is not going to create any issues whether you are working with Windows, Linux or Mac operating system. That line ending is going to be work as expected. So it is going to work the way it should work with the Windows. It is going to work with the Mac operating system the way it should work. Some right issues it is going to resolve right when you are working with a multi-team projects. So configuring the terminal illuminator for this right Git bash. So basically, what exactly it means? It means right once you select this option, right, then what will happen? It will resizable the terminal window. So basically, this terminal window, if you are working with right Visual Studio Code, at that time it will come into the picture. But this is not required, right, for Visual Studio, because whenever we are working with Visual Studio Code, at that time we are going to have terminal window. Or if you are working with some other kind of right, what I can say, editor, in that editor you can have terminal, but here in Visual Studio you are not going to work with terminal. But if you are working with Visual Studio Code, this one is going to be important, right? So next, choose the default behavior. So basically, default behavior means forward and mod. So this is the option that what we need to check. So this option keep history simple works well for right. I mean from the beginner. Means what? Now starting from the very basics to the all the advanced level concept, right? They are going to be supported, right? If you provide this fast and forward, right? So you can see fast forward the current branch to the first branch when possible. Otherwise, create a merge comment. So basically, you can easily use right pull. You can easily use push, right? So those command you can very easily use, right? Once you select these options, then you have to select this credential helper manager. So this credential helper manager means what? Now, whenever I'm working with GitHub, right? So if I'm communicating Git to GitHub, then how that credential is going to be managed? See, GitHub means credential is required. Git means Git needs to communicate with the GitHub for the remote repositories. Then I cannot ask the Git to write, or I cannot provide my login credential again and again. So I want to find a better approach, transfer the credential from Git to GitHub, and for that purpose you need to check this one. So once you check this one time you need to, it will ask you to log in. Once you log in, automatically it will create a credential as a token it is going to create. That token it is going to pass, right, every time you, right, push some changes to the remote server, or you want to pull some changes, right, pull some changes from the remote server at that time. So this option you need to select. Some additional options are, right, if you want to enhance the performance. For example, some of the operations you are performing very frequently. So instead of getting the data from the actual file, okay, if you want to enable that this file or this command should come from the cache to improve the application, you can select. This is optional. And finally, right, you need to click on this install button. Once you install this one, so it is going to install GitHub on your local machine. So once it install the GitHub, right, if it successfully install, you will get this right, success page, and simply click on the finish button. So this is how, see, this is the step by step approach that what you need to follow. Some step you might not understand at this point of time. Why? Because we have not yet developed any application, we have not yet used any of the, right, Git command and Git concept. But again, after two sessions, if you again revisit to this document, most of the concept you will understand. So what are the command, how it is working behind the scene story. Once you understand this thing, then you will understand. And again, whenever you are installing a software, right, spending too much time for the installation doesn't make any sense. One time is fine, because we are not installing it again and again. So follow this step by step approach, install it, that one. So once it install, right, then what you need to do, you need to verify whether Git is installed on your machine or not. So how I can do this thing? Now go to the command prompt and write the Git command. And if you are getting this one, right, that means what, Git version 22.25.0 Windows 1. So if you are getting this Git version message, means what, Git is installed on your machine. If you are not getting, or if you are saying that Git is not recognized as an internal or external command, means what, means either Git not installed correctly, or it is not added to the environment path. So that's what you need to ensure. Clear? Clear
Yep.
or not? Okay. Second thing, what, now if you are getting this Git, right, once you install successfully, automatically Visual Studio going to integrate. I mean, going to show this Git menu. If you are right, if you are seeing this menu, means what, Git or right, installed on your machine, and also integrate with Visual Studio. Clear, guys?
Yep.
Right. And one more thing, guys, remember, whenever you are working with a right, Visual Studio, you do not need to use, right, Git command. So whatever the command they are provided, those commands are meant for, right, Visual Studio code. But in right, Visual Studio, instead of using command, right, they provided the user interface, and using that user interface, we can do the operations behind the scene. That Git command are going to be executed by Visual Studio. Right. For example, if you want to add this to the repository, if you want to make some check-ins, check out, right, whatever the commit, right, whatever operations you are going to do. So those operations means you are going to do visually using the user interface. Behind the scene, the actual command are going to be executed by Visual Studio. Clear?
Yes.
Clear or not? Now, guys, remember this Git what we install. This is only going to work on the local machine. So means what? Now using Git only, I can create repository, but only local repository. So local repository means what? Now it is only available within my machine. Within my machine means what? No other team member can access my code. So if you want to share your code on, or if you want to create a project where multiple members are going to be work, then what we need? We need a shared repository. And for the shared repository in our course, what we are going to use? We are going to use the GitHub. So what is GitHub? GitHub is a cloud-based platform that hosts Git repositories and make them accessible right, over the internet. So basically what exactly it means, that this GitHub allows, see, using it, I can only create a local repository. So if you want to create some shared repository which needs to be available over the internet to be accessible by all the right developer, right, all the team member, right, then what you need to do, you need to create right, you need to create your repository on the cloud. And for creating the repository on cloud, we are having one option, that is GitHub. So this GitHub, what exactly it provide? It provide the remote storage. Remote storage means what? See, whatever we are using in the local repository, it is only to my machine. If the same thing you want to do right remotely, so that anyone, right, everyone, right, who are having access to that repository, they can do right verification, they can get a specific version. Then what you need? You need a remote repository, and for that remote repository, we are going to make use of Git. So again, guys, remember, creating an account is very simple, right? What you need to do, open this github.com. So already I have installed, right? So what you need to do, you just need to create an account, right? So, right. So you just need to click on this sign up button. So please enter your email address, password, whatever your username and country and region, and click on this create account button. So once you click on this create account button, then what will happen? It will, right, it will send one confirmation email to your email ID. And once you provide that right one time password, then your account is going to be confirmed. So once your account is confirmed, right, then what you can do, you can right connect your Visual Studio account to GitHub. How you can do this thing, right? Go to Visual Studio file, and here you can find something called account settings. So what is that option? File and account settings. So in this case, file, account settings. So you can see currently my account is linked with GitHub. Okay. So let me remove this one. Now let me do one more thing. Let me log in with my GitHub account. Yes, I log in with my GitHub account. Now, so what I have mentioned one step, that the credential, how it is going to send internally. So currently you can see, right, for my Visual Studio, I'm using right my personal Microsoft account. And then, right, you can say this is my Microsoft account. So I have provided the license. So now, link your Git with the GitHub repository. What you need to do, you need to click on this add button. So once you click on the add button, you can see two options are visible. One is Microsoft, another one is GitHub. So click on this GitHub. So once you click on this GitHub, right, it is coming, this page is coming. So what you need to do, click on this continue button. So once you click on this continue button, right, browser, right, automatically it will redirect. If redirect, that is fine. Otherwise, I mean, authentication I have already provided previously. So what you will get, right, you will get this page, right. So this page means what are the data, right, Git can access from your GitHub repository. So you just need to provide this authorized to Git. So once you provide this thing, right, then you can see automatically that link is there, and now my Git is connected with the GitHub. Clear?
Yes.
Right. So now what we have done so far? So far we have to understand, right, how to create, right, GitHub account, how to install right Git, and how to link Git with the GitHub. And guys, remember, internally, whenever the communication is going to be happening between Git and GitHub, it is going to use one token, that is personal access token. This token is going to be generated by the GitHub. It will be returned to Git, and every time you communicate right from Git to GitHub, that Git is going to use that right, personal access token, not the username and password. The token is going to be something like this. That token is not visible. You cannot see, but internally that is going to be right sent by the Git whenever you are communicating with the right. What I can say. the Git, from Git to GitHub repository. Clear, guys? Clear?
Yep.
So
Yes.
now what I'm going to do is, I'm going to discuss how to create a repository, what is exactly a repository, and how to add our project to Git repository. So step by step. So we have already discussed what is repository. Now it is a structured storage location where Git is going to track every information about the file changes. So I mean the complete history it is going to maintain. So let us try to understand what is repository. So Git repository is a structured storage location where Git tracks and manages a project source code along with its complete change history. So for example, whenever you create one project, that project going to contain some source code, controllers, models, data, config file, program file, many files are going to be created. So all this file information, right, it is going to stored in the Git repository. And once this file is being tracked by Git, Git, or you can say once you store this thing in the Git repository, then complete history going to be maintained by this Git. Means what? What is the initial commit? Later you add some controller, right? Then you update some model, then you do some bug fixes, then you do some performance improvement, then you add some new feature. Every changes whatever you made to the source code, that is going to be maintained by the Git repository. So it is going to whenever you are committing the changes, right? For example, you do some development and then you changes the right commit these changes to the Git repository. At that time, also it is going to track who made these changes, when these changes is being made, what changes exactly being made. Also, 100% that the version history is going to be managed so that you can undo the changes. For example, you do one checking or you commit some changes. Now you want to redo that commit, right? So you can do that one. Again, if this repository is a remote repository, then multiple team member, right? They are also going to work on the same project. Clear? Clear, guys?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So
Yes.
now there are two types of a repository. One is local repository. Local repository means what? That complete history, version history, it is going to stored on your one computer. So full project history, it is going to store on your one computer and it is going to work offline. Internet is available, not available, doesn't matter. It is going to work as expected. Remote repository means what? Now it is going to be hosted on server platform like GitHub, Azure DevOps, right? So different cloud provider, right? They are going to where you can store your data. So this is good for the backup and for backup and collaborations. Collaboration means what? If multiple members are going to work, then that is fine. And here you cannot do some changes within the code directly in the remote repository. Guys, remember, whenever you are writing some changes and whenever you are doing the development, 100% it is always going to be on the local repository. So this remote repository is specifically for backup and collaboration. If you want to write it, take a previous version, or if you want that repository, I mean that project to be shared by multiple developer, for that purpose this one. But again, working means it is 100% to the local repository. So 5 developer, if you working on the same project, then in each developer machine, a local repository is going to be created, which will pull the changes from the remote repository. And whenever you are working means you are working on the local repository only. And after this local repository, if you want to make these changes, to be available in the remote repository, then you need to push these changes, right? So that's what we are going to discuss. Clear? What are the different types of repository? Local repository, remote repository. So can a local repository exist without remote repository? Absolutely fine. Only Git is there. That is going to be work as a local repository. So can both local repository and a remote repository exist for a project? Yes, absolutely fine. We can use Git for our local repository, GitHub for our remote repository. Sir, can only remote repository exist without local repository? No, that is not possible. So 100% you need a local repository. Remote repository is going to be optional. Clear?
Yes.
Right. So that's what you need to understand. So now, all right, what I'm going to do, I'm going to show you how to work, how to create a project and then how you can add that project right to the repository. So let me start and create a project, student management API. So let me create a new project. The student management dot API. So giving the project name as a student management dot API, and I'm providing the right solution name is student management. So means what? Now within this solution, this project is going to be created. So next, click on the next button. See, guys, remember, first of all, I'm going to make you understand all these core concept of a GitHub. Then I'm going to show you how you can integrate GitHub on our microservices project. Is that clear?
Yes.
Right. So
Yes.
now I'm not going to do any changes to my microservices project. First of all, we need to clearly understand, then we can confidently apply the changes. So we have created our project. Next, what I need to do, now once we created the project, next what I need to do, I need to integrate Git on my project and we want to create a local repository. Guys, remember, whenever you are working with Git means what? Git means it is going to be local repository. So if you are right, integrating that Git with GitHub, then only a remote repository is going to be created. But if you are not integrating GitHub, only Git means it is going to create a local repository. Sir, how to create the local repository? Now, first of all, what you need to do, you need to select Git and then you need to click the Git repository from the context menu. Sir, from this project, this Git option is there and there is option called the Git repository. Click on this one. So now I'm not going to integrate with a remote repository Azure DevOps existing remote project. I'm going to create a local repo. So local repo means what? You have to select this local only. So where is your project path? I mean the source code path. That's what you need to provide. So you can see the demo project. This is my solution folder name. So git ignore template. So by default, which I mean, internally it is going to create one git ignore file. So default is Visual Studio. That's what you can provide.
May I know how
License
did
is
you
not.
come here?
I will
This
discuss
window.
this thing. Sorry.
No. This window, I didn't notice. How do you come?
So in this gate, you have to click on this create repository. Clear?
Okay. Yeah. Thank you.
Right. So from this, it will come to here, and you just need to click on this local repo. So whatever the default option they have provided, login path, this is going local path. I mean the project source code path. Ignore git ignore by for time being, right? Just go with the default. So basically, it is going to right. I mean, whenever the git is going to track the file, so which files it should not track. That list we can provide. So we'll discuss this thing git ignore, right? And currently we are not going to use any kind of a license, right? License tells others what they can add and cannot do with your code. So currently we are not discussing those advanced concepts. So we are going with the default. If you want to have a add readme.csv, for example, if you are having this add readme file which you want to be available as part of GitHub, you can select this one. Again, we are not we don't have this readme text file, so we are going with the default option and simply click on the create button. So once you click on the create button, what will happen? Now you can see create a local repository created successfully. So basically this message means what? Now it is explicitly telling, right? I mean this message means what? Now our project is being tracked by Git. So Git means what? Now this project source code is going to be stored in the Git repository and using the Git tool, I mean the Git command, I can do some operations. So what type of operation? That source code management related operations, right? So that's what we are going to discuss next. Clear? So now, what are the right? Once you click on this one, what things are going to be done behind the scene? So basically, when Git is initialized, I mean, when you add your project to Git, then what will happen? It will internally create one Git folder in the project root directory, right? Configure Git to track eligible project files. So it will configure Git to track all eligible files, not all files, whichever files are eligible for tracking. It will also add a Git ignore file where it is going to store which files should not be tracked by Git and prepare the project version tracking comments, right? So comments. So now again it will create a version and that version is going to be stored in the right what I can say uh, in the Git repository. So now if you go to the project, I mean the solution explorer, so open folder in file explorer, so you will see right this thing. So currently it is showing Git, GitHub, right, Git attribute, Git ignore, all these things, right? So these files are there. So now in your case, you might not see this thing. So the .git file you might not find. This git ignore you might not find. Right? Then what you need to do, you just need to enable right show the hidden file. So in view, so right currently you can see hidden file is visible. So that is what you are seeing, right? And when you create the project, you will not find that git folder, which is going to contain the version control information of our project. So if you want to see that file, what you need to do, click view, show, and the hidden files. So this hidden files means this is going to contain, and this is going to contain the data, right? I mean, how the rate tracking is going to be happening, how the versioning is going to happen. So for that purpose, whatever the information is required, those informations are going to be stored inside this .git folder. Clear? So basically, whenever you create the project, that Git folder is going to be created as a hidden folder. To see this hidden folder, you need to click on this view show hidden items. Clear? So
Yes.
Git folder is going to
Yep.
contain what files to be tracked. Git ignore folder is going to contain what files should not be tracked. And Git attribute means it control how Git treat files internally. Rather than deciding whether files are tracked or ignored, it is mainly used to define the rules related to line ending. So basically you can see we have provided some options while installing how the line ending should be there, right? How the comparison is going to be right, done between two files. I mean for the same file, two versions are there. How you are going to compare both versions? In all these things are going to be how you are going to do this thing, that is going to be defined by attribute. So here, this file going to contain the information which all files are going to be tracked and how. This is going to contain the files which is not going to be tracked, and this is going to contain right some information. Specifically, right, how it is going to treat the file internally. If I'm going to compare two files, then how it should compare. If I'm using this right application on different operating system, then how the line ending is going to be there. So those informations are going to be provided by these three files. Clear? So what files to be committed, guys? Remember the project file, right, which you are working on daily basis, like controller, model, services, DTO, program, app settings, project files, solution files, documentation files, right? So these files you need to, right, what I can say, include in the right uh, I mean you should tell this file to be tracked by the Git, and which file you should not track, which are going to be generated dynamically. The files which are temporarily, such files you should not right include in the Git folder, so that they should be tracked by right what I can say Git repository. Clear?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay. So
Those
now
are by
what I'm
default.
going.
Those are by
Sorry.
default included in ignore file, right? Or we
Yes,
have to
yes.
add.
They are going to. So these are going to by default not included. See, whatever I'm saying, these files are going to be tracked and these files are going to be not tracked. Later, right, once you start the advanced concept, I'm going to open these files, right? So, I mean, whatever the default file, how you can work with this file, how you can explicitly specify that this file should be tracked, that file should not be tracked. That is what also I'm going to discuss, but not now. Clear? Okay. So now,
Yep.
right, once we have done this thing, right? Next, what we are going to discuss, we are going to discuss some core concepts. right? So before understanding how to add files to the GitHub repository, how to do check-in, staging, all these things, we need to understand some core concept, and this core concept will give you confidence what to do and how to do, right? So basically, first of all, we need to understand what is working directory, what is staging area, and what is the repository. So can anybody tell me what is working directory?
Local.
So
The
working
directory of
directory
its
means
core
some
code.
directory. So this is going to my working directory where I'm going to do my coding. Coding part means it is part of the working directory. So what is repository? Repository is the storage location where it maintains the complete version history of the project. Sir, we understand working directory. We understand the repository, but what is the staging area? So staging area means what? Now, for example, you created some file, you modified some existing file, and this repository is also going to contain a complete version, that is commit version. So before pushing your changes to the repository, the staging area, right, gives you a clarity. So these are the files which are being modified. These are the files which are being added. So do you want to do you want to allow? I mean, do you want to push all these changes, all these new files, all these modified files to the repository? So this staging area going to give you that flexibility. So basically, whatever the new files you add, whatever the file you edit, whatever the file you delete, whatever changes you are doing on existing file, and before pushing them to the repository, you can have a look. So you can look and you can decide. For example, let me give the clarity. For example, I fixed one bug. I added a new feature. So now when I'm pushing these changes to the repository, if I want, I can only push that bug fix to the repository, not the new feature. If I want, I can only push that new feature from my working directory to the repository, not the bug fix. If I want, I can push both to the repository. So that flexibility is only possible because of the staging area. So this is your working area directory. This is your repository, and this staging area gives you the confidence what to change, right? What you want to push from your working directory to the repository. Clear? I will show you this thing practically.
Yeah, maybe a Git is a repository. So staging is which area? Like a part of Git, it is stored in
It is
some.
part of the Git. It is part of the Git. So this
Okay,
is
thank you.
going to be your right. I will show you this thing. What is this? See, so this staging area repository both are, but here this repository means it is containing the committed code, and this is means the uncommitted code. So based on your project, right, whatever the code you have written, whatever the existing code, by comparing this and this, it will figure out what files are being changed, what files are being added. So that information, see, if I could not figure out, right, for example, if I'm adding a file and if I'm not comparing with the repository, can you tell me whether that file is already available in the repository or not? You cannot tell. So those changes are going to be stored in the staging area. So if I'm adding a new file, means what? It is coming into the staging area. If I'm modifying some existing file, again it is going to be coming into the staging area. I'll show you this thing practically in some time. Clear? Right. See, whenever you are working with a Git repository, right, a file can be any one of these states: untracked, modified, staged, and committed. Sir, what is untracked, modified, staged, and committed? Untracked means what? You add a new file. So whenever you add a new file, which is not being tracked by Git yet, means that is going to be a untracked file. And what is modified file? Existing file which is already being tracked by the what I can say GitHub repository will be considered as a modified file. So this on-tracked file and a modified file you can clearly visible right on your source code. So whatever the source code you are created right in that source code, you can easily identify this is a on-tracked file and this is a modified file. This staged file means whether it is on-tracked or whether it is modified. Whenever before moving the code to the committed, they are moved to the staged, and from the staged only you can decide what to do, whether you should move this, commit this to the repository or not. That's what you can take the decision in the staged file. And once you make these changes saved, they are going to be available in the committed state. Committed state means what? Changes are safely saved. So basically, you can say if I'm adding a new file, means it is on track. If I'm modifying an existing file, that is modified. The change means changes is selected from the commit. Ready. If I'm moving to the stage, means now these changes are ready to be moved from stage to the committed state. Commit means it is made final. So once you commit, means these changes are available in the repository. If this is
So one
not clear,
question, so one
right?
question is, sir, like is
Yes.
staging is means like a local repository or like it's different than a local
See,
repository when I say
currently, see, it is going to be only local repository. So this is part of local. So until and unless I'm not pushing the code to the remote repository, it is local. And again, till now, whatever I'm saying, I'm going to discuss whatever. First of all, I'm going to show you using local repository. So today I'm not going to touch the remote repository part. So once I show you the example practically, you will get the clarity. And then some command they have provided. So add command is there. So what is the add command? Command means what? For example, it will move your for example, some code are there, which you have added, some new file you added, and you want to move that new file from your working directory to the staging area. You have to use add command. Commit means you want to move these changes from your working directory, from your staging area to what I can say, uh, repository. Pool means this is particularly useful, to bring the step brings other work into your system, and this is specifically to push your work to the remote server so that other people can get this thing, So now what I'm going to do, I'm going to show you these two things, This is what I will show you once you start working with the remote repository. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to create some new files, and then I'm going to show you visually how the different files are going to be treated by Visual Studio when it is integrated with Git repository. So first of all, let me go ahead and create a folder called models. So right click here, models folder. Then I'm going to create one class file, student model. So very simple class I'm going to create. So this is going to my student model. Some properties I'm going to add, some 2-3 properties. Then I'm going to create see. So once you add this file, so is this a new file? Yes or no?
Yes.
No.
Right. So
Yes.
if this is a new file, does Git has ever seen this file prior to this one? So Git never seen this file, So basically, what is the state? State is going to be untracked. Untracked means what? The file exists on our machine, but Git is completely on our offhand. If we delete this file now, Git will not complain because it is not part of the version control system yet. Clear?
Yes.
Clear or not?
Yeah.
Okay. Next, what I'm going to do, I'm going to create some services.
Yes.
Let me go ahead and add the folder. So services. So I'm going to create one service called iStudent service. So here I'm going to define the interface. Now tell me guys, this file, now it is being added. Does this file already known to Git? No. So it is a new file. So 100% the state is going to be on track. Clear?
Yep.
yeah.
Next, what I'm going to do, I'm going to create the implementation class. Some in-memory implementation I'm doing. I'm not using database here. So list of student you can see. This is get all method, get by id method, and add method. Again, guys, remember this file. Again, it's a new file, so 100% the state is going to be on track. Now, what I'm going to do, I have created this service. Now I'm going to the program class. So in the program class, I have added this line. So I'm registering my student service. Now, this program.cs class file, is this already tracked by Git?
Yes. Yes.
So it is already tracked by Git means what? The file state is going to be
Modified.
modified, right? So now, again, what I'm doing here, I'm going to create one controller. So let me go ahead and create the controller. Again, this controller is going to be a new file. So the file state is going to be Untracked. Clear?
Yes.
Clear or not?
Yep.
Yes.
Now we want to understand the Visual Studio Git symbol. So whenever we are integrating Git with Visual Studio, Visual Studio directly represents this untracked, modified, unchanged, right, or committed commands through some symbol. Now, if you look at this, so you can see this weather forecast controller, it is coming with the lock symbol. Student controller, it is coming with the plus symbol. Program class, it is coming with the red right symbol, right? And this so student.cs, iStudent service, student service.cs, right? They are coming with the plus symbol. So what exactly this green plus means? The green plus means what? Now we created these files, but Git doesn't yet consider them as part of the project history. Clear? So once you created a file, and if that file is not being tracked by the Git repository, I mean, if that file is not part of the history of the project, then what? Then that file is coming as part of the plus, green plus symbol. So if I delete this file now, it will not create any complaint. So Git is not going to make any kind of a complaint. Clear? So anytime you add a file, that file is going to be visible with a green plus symbol. Means what? This file we just created, it is not being as part of the project history. Clear?
Yes.
Right. So when you see this green tick, red tick symbol means what? Means this file is an already or existing file which is already been tracked by the Git repository, which is already part of the project history. And red tick symbol means what? Now you have done some changes to this file. So when you are doing some changes to an existing file, that file state is going to be modified, and to
Modified.
right, and to differentiate, right, and to highlight that file that this is one of the file being changed, so it is providing this red tick symbol. Clear?
Yes, sir.
Right. Now coming to this right log symbol, if any file which is already being tracked by the project Git and which is already part of the project history, and if you are not doing any changes to that file after the last commit, then those files are coming as part right with the log symbol. So weather forecast control, have we made any changes? No. Weather forecast.cs file, have we made any changes? No. So these two files are coming with the log symbol. So log symbol means it is already tracked, it is already part of the project history, and as right after the last comment, we have not done any changes to that file. Plus symbol means it is newly added, not as part of the project history. Right tick symbol means it is an existing file. Also, we are doing some changes to that file, comparing with the last commit program.cs class file. Clear?
Yes.
Right? Clear? The same thing you can see here. So program.cs class file, you can see red tick symbol. Weather forecast, you can see log symbol. Weather forecast controller, you can see log symbol. Student controller, student, and this four. So basically, how many new files we have created here? 1, 2, 3, and 4 new files we have created. And how many existing file we modified?
One.
One.
Project also.
Yes, one file. So now, how to write? So currently, these are my on-tracked files. So these 4 files are on-tracked files. So how I can add this on-tracked file to Git repository so that they can be tracked. So currently these files are not tracked by the Git repository. Am I right?
Yes.
Yes.
So how we can add this thing? So for this purpose, right, you have to open this Git and commit your stats. So what is stats we will discuss later. Right. For now, please focus on the commit. So now from the Git, you have to click on this commit or stats. So once you commit and stats, it will open this one. Now in the changes section, right? So okay, let me do one more changes. Save this one. Build the project solution. So before moving, build the project solution.
So just one thing, it's a new project you have taken or it's an existing one on which you have added the files? Just sorry, I missed out.
Sorry.
Is it the new project, totally a new project, or it's a existing one where you added the files? The solution I'm asking, is it a new
So, does that make any sense?
no, no,
Whether it
from
is a
where
new project
no,
or an
why
existing one?
why
Yes.
I'm asking is there's a lock in it, na, that already file has been checked in. So I'm just asking that whether it's a
See,
existing
see,
or
what
when you
remember?
create a repository, it automatically check in the code. That's from there I am coming.
So once you create the project, whenever you create a repository for that project, automatically whatever the existing files, they are going to be automatically available as part of the project source code. After
Oh,
then, right, once you add the project later on, if you are adding some new files, they are not going to be tracked. Clear?
got it, sir.
Right. Now, so now open this one, commit and slash. So once you open this one, you can see that get changes window is coming. So it is clearly saying, right, uh, changes. How many changes are there?
Fine.
Right.
Five.
5 changes are there.
Right. So from these changes, right, you can see some of the a file they are created with A and some of the file they are created with M. So A means added. Added means what? Now these are the new files that is being added. Means what? These files are not already been tracked by
Git.
Git. And M means what? This is an existing file which is already tracked by the Git and you are doing some changes. So this A and M is clear. Why? What they exactly representing
Yes.
Yes.
now? Now this comment all option is there. Sir, what is this comment all? It is going to do two things. It is going to not only going to add these files, but also going to commit these changes. So you have to do two things. So right when you click on this commit all these files are going to be added and also going to be right committed to the repository. Sir, I don't want to do this thing right automatically. So first of all, what I need to do? So here you can see one plus symbol is showing clear. What is exactly it is saying? Page. Page means what? Now, right, what I mentioned, right? This stage going to give you the flexibility, right, to decide what files you want to move to, right? What I can say, repository, and what files you don't want to move to the repository. So now just click on this button, right? So once you click on this stage button, what is happening? Now that untracked file now move to this stage section or not?
Yes.
So moving to the stage section doesn't mean it is committing to the right what I can say repository. So we just move this file to the stage section. So now from the stage section, you can decide right whether you want to commit or not. Now, now once you move to this one, now you can see that the option is not showing here, right? The commit all now commit is staged. Means what? Now from this stage section, and now if I click on this button, then this file is going to be moved to the repository. Sir, do I need to add all these right files one by one to the stage section? Right. So you can, if you want, you can do this thing. Sir, is there any option which I can use so that all the files are going to be added to the stage section? Yes, that is also possible. Why? Now at the changes level, right? This plus button is there. Just click on this one. So once you click, right, you can see it will move all the changes, right? Whether the files are being new or existing file, the stage section. From the stage section, if you want, you can commit these changes. Clear? Now, once you are in the stage section, right, what is your requirement? Right, your requirement, sir, I don't want to commit all the changes. I want to only change the program.cs class file, no other class file, or only student.cs file. Is that possible? Yes, that is possible. How? Now, just click on this on stage all. See, here you can move this one by one. For example, I I don't want to commit the student controller on stage. Again, it will move to the changes section. I don't want to or right do this thing, right? It will move to this section. I want to move all this to the right from stage to the changes section. Okay, you can click here. So now it is moving all this file again. Go back to the stages section. So from this file, I want to write only check in this particular file. Okay, sir, how is that possible? Now click on this plus button. So once you click on this plus button, it will come to this part. And from here, right, you can do the check-in. So I want to right do the commit. So you can add a statement commit. So right add student model. So that's what I have done. And click on the commit button. So once you click on the commit button, right now that student that is CS file is being tracked by GitHub repository. Now come to this part. Now the student.class file is coming with this one. So what is it saying? Check-in means what? Now it is available as part of the Git repository. Now if you go to here, you can see pending add. Pending add means it is not added to the Git repository. Clear?
So one question here. Suppose there is one file that is for feature and another is for bug, and both have the interlinked code. Yeah. And suppose I moved one file into stage, another I have not commit one. I move to commit, another is not. So does the build will get failed, or it give an pre error before moving into commit?
You just tell me, how is that possible? So if you are working with a two file, if these two files are interlinked, then how you can write commit one and how you can skip one? How is that possible?
No,
Think
people can
practically.
do mistake. No, it's just two files. Suppose there are 50 files are there. So
First
as a
of all, you
developer,
will say, right? Think practically. If two
hmm,
files are interlinked, if I'm having one I'm creating one controller. That controller calling one method in the service class. And if
hmm,
I'm not checking this service class and I'm checking this controller class, 100% it is going to fail. Why it is going to fail? That at runtime when it is going to call this method, that method is not available. That build is going to be fail, na?
yeah. So now I'm saying, like, does anything like it gives any error here, like it's a type of dependency or not? Just asking, like, the Git
Hey,
gives any.
two things I'm saying. So for the check-in purpose, you can check in. But if you are using CI/CD pipeline, then once you do the check-in, automatically this published code will be published to your application, right where it is hosted. Your application is going to be write it down, na?
Got it. Got it. The CI/CD. I missed the CI/CD. I got my answer. Thank you, sir.
Right? So that is going to be red is crash. I mean crash. So you should not do things. Check-in means make sure that is going to be stable. Every file, whatever you are checking, it should work. So now, right, what I can do is, right, this is my program file. Again, you can see now. So double click on this program file. So once I double click on this program file, right, then you can see what changes you have done. So this is my initial file. And here it is adding these changes. It is adding these changes. So basically, you can also compare these two files. So this is your working tree and this is your index. Index means this is the code which is available in the repository. And I'm comparing that index with this my present code. And what difference I'm finding, that what also you can see here. Clear?
The left is the repository and right is the working directory, right, sir?
Yes, yes. This is working tree means your current folder. This is index means it is the repository. Clear?
Pranay, is it possible to suppose I have modified file, I added 6 lines of a code. Can I commit only 3 lines of a code? I not commit the three.
See, whenever you just tell me, whenever I'm committing, what I'm committing the code or I'm committing that file.
Code.
How code I'm
No,
committing? I'm
five,
committing file. Like, is there any code I have written or these are files?
five.
Files.
Files means that is not possible. What you need to do, comment those three files, commit the changes, again uncomment those file on your machine. Right? And right, right, what is the meaning of right
No, I'm just
commit?
asking. I'm just asking. Is it possible?
No, that is it. Before asking, first of all, tell me what is that requirement. Is there any such requirement coming in real time? I have
What is
written
here?
one method. I
What is
want
here?
to, sorry.
What is she asking? I didn't understand her question.
Which what?
Her question. What is her question?
Okay, my
Mr. T.
question is
No,
there
no,
is a one.
say, forget that. That question is not
Okay,
that valid. Right? Let it be there, right? That is not a right valid requirement. So now, right,
One
what I
question,
need to
sir.
do?
Uh, Sir,
Yes, please.
whatever we are doing, no, that is in local repository only still. Am I correct?
Yes, I have not yet discussed the remote repository.
Okay.
It is only.
Is there any system crash? All the changes will gone in
Sorry.
that case, right?
Yes, see, 100%, right? It is local repository means what? It is only available on your local machine, not available in the right remote server. So in that case, you need to move these changes to the remote repository, and that is what we are also going to discuss in our next session.
Okay, sir. Okay, got it, sir.
Anna, the
Yes,
index and working tree, please, can you compare them again?
sorry.
Index, index and working tree.
So index representing your right remote index represent the repository. And working tree means your working directory. Index means it's your right remote repository. So now, so what I need to do, I need to move all these files to right what I can say my repository, or if I want, right, I have all shown you one by one how you can commit, and if you want, you can also commit everything, right? I move everything to the stage test changes, and then I need to give a right commit all any right a meaningful message you need to provide, and then click on this one. So now everything is moved to right. So now you can see all the files are being added. So this symbol you can see. Now there is no right tick. So means what? Everything is fine now.
It is committed into local repository, right? Right now, till now. Now,
I'm again right. I'm again saying this thing. We are only
Yes,
working with.
I have a second part of this question. Wait, sir, just I'm completing. So my understanding is it's a local repository. So, sir, if I have to compare it with the what is there in a remote repository, the way you have shown index, so that will not come.
See, did I explain what is remote repository? What exactly they are going to store? How that remote
Okay.
repository, local repository is going to collaborate? Am I
Maybe
explain?
I confused with the index that you were showing, na? Index and working
I'm
directory. So,
asking whatever I'm asking. Am I asking? So you first tell me how the remote repository and the local repository going to work together. You first explain, then I will tell you right how it is going to become.
my
You have
understand.
to push it.
See, first of all, guys, remember, go step by step. I have not yet touched what is remote repository. And if you are asking me question how I'm going to compare with the remote repository data, then how I will answer you. So
So
we are
my
not
bad, I
talking.
got confused with the index one. Maybe I got
Yes,
confused
see,
with
again,
index.
so whatever index means, it is only the right local repository. So currently, I'm talking about the repository means it is only local repository, no remote repository at this point of time.
Okay. I
What I
confused
said.
with the remote one. I thought it's a remote one. Sorry, my bad.
Mhm. Yeah. So there is no remote repository we have yet discussed. This is completely your local repository. So today what we have discussed, right? How to install Git, how to right add project to Git, how we can do the commit, what is staging, right? That what we have discussed. Anyone having any question? Remaining right from model right from chapter 5. Who, who is on mute?
Uh, I
Please. Clear? So anyone having any question, they can right ask me. So guys, the next session is on Monday morning.
But
Sir,
tomorrow,
without,
no?
sir, one more question, sir. Without sending staging directly, also we need to commit. We have two options. Am I correct, sir? My understanding is correct. I'm just checking.
Yes. For example, right, I'm creating a new class file. Right, some right test class I have created. Right. So now what I want to do is I want to add this one. So now if you go to Git, right, commit your changes, and here you can see. So in this case, without adding this file to the staging, if you click on this comment all, then what it will do? It will do both the things behind the scene. First of all, it will add this file to the staging, then it will move that file staging from staging to the repository. Right. So you have to give a name. adding, right, test class, adding test. Clear?
Just one question, like, though maybe I will read more on it. Like, the purpose of staging is not clear. Why, from where I am coming, sir? Like there are five files. So, okay, four files I moved into staging, and then I decided, okay, two I will move to repository, and three I am not
Yes,
doing it.
first of all, you just read. So there are three things: changes and the staging,
Yes,
right?
sir.
So from staging, right, what you need to do? So from changes, you need to move your file to staging, right? From
Correct, sir.
changes to staging, and from staging to right repository.
Correct, sir.
Clear? So
Yes,
in
sir.
staging, if you have a files, file one, file two, file three, file four, file five. So now tell me, if the five files are there, and if I click on that right comment all, then what will happen? In that case, it will move all these five files right
To
to the
repo.
repository. Yes or no?
Yes, sir. All five will be moved to repo
But my
after staging.
requirement is that right that this out of these five files, right, these two files are related to bug fix, and these three files are related to new feature. So this is related to bug fix, and
Mm-hmm.
this is related to new feature. And now,
Mm-hmm.
right, my requirement is I only want to check in the files which are related to bug fixing. Then what I need to do? These two files I need to move from changes to repo. And once I move these two files changes to repo, then when I do the commit stage, rate commit changes, rate staging or commit stage, then these two files are going to be moved right from staging to the repository. These files still are there in my project, but in the ready changes mode. Means not yet committed to the repository. Clear? So that flexibility, right, you are getting right using staging. If there is no staging, then how you can decide which files to be checking and which files you should not, right? I mean, what files to be committed and what files should not be committed. If you are having multiple on changes file, right, you are working on five files. Out of these five files, I want to commit only two files. Then how you can do this thing without staging?
So from where I'm coming, sorry, like in TFS earlier, what happens? You select those files you want to
Don't
commit,
ask
and
me
you,
about, see, don't ask me about
no,
TFS. That is
no,
old
general.
one.
I'm saying earlier, like you select some file. Okay, so I was getting confused with that. That two files I can select from there also. There was no concept of staging, so just from there I was asking, sir.
See, that is what I'm saying now. What is happening with the TFS? The same thing might not be happening with the right GitHub. So this flexibility they are provided with the GitHub. This is not available in TFS. In TFS, you can directly right click on the file and you can add and check in. Is that flexibility is available with the TFS, right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So
But
it's the
that
same concept.
flexibility right, that is not available here. But here they are provided the staging option so that right from a single place you can decide right what to move from your staging to right repository and what you don't want to move. That what you can see. Functionally, it is going to be same, but how they are implementing that is going to be very
So
clear.
here we cannot select two or three files. We when we come changes, then all files will get moved, right, sir? In
Again, you are
suppose
asking right,
in GitHub only, I'm saying, sir. Like there are five files that have added. So if I want to do a check-in, I cannot select two or three files. Okay, so all will get changed here. Okay, fine, sir.
you have
Got my answer.
you can decide which file you want to check a commit. That's what you can decide whether you want to
Correct.
check these two files or these three files or all the files. It's up to you only.
Got it, sir. Thank you, sir.
Clear, guys?
I have one
Hello.
question. I have one question. So this GitHub thing, it will be support Visual Studio 2022, or it will be lesser version, 2013 kind of thing. Also, we can set up this GitHub.
Right. I don't know, right? 2013 will be supported or not because that is very old version. Even 2000 does 2013 support .NET Core,
No, no.
right? Then I'm not sure, right, whether that is going to be supported. Uh, I'm not sure. So you have to
Okay.
check, right, whether it is supporting or not
Thank you, sir.
because I have not tested.
Yeah.
Yeah. Clear,
Hello.
guys? Yeah.
Hello, Pranay. I have one query.